What am I doing, smoking a butt while sitting on the crapper at the Michigan State Capitol? Let me explain. Turns out Lansing's a great place to work because no one has to work there. They're all at home in their jammies coming up with schemes to waste your money while they're still working under the COVID telecommute rules.
Is anybody working? Working. Working. Working.
Lansing's a ghost town. I'm told about 43,000 of the state's 50,000 employees work at least sometime at home. And that doesn't include the legislature or governor's staff. Those numbers are a state secret. So why are they sitting at home scheming to give a Detroit billionaire $1 billion for an empty building when the state is spending $1 billion on empty buildings? And that's not all. The work-from-home wastrels of the state legislature are trying to ram home a plethora of dung legislation during the secret lame duck hearings. So we convene a hearing of our own.
All right, we shouldn't play too much more of that video because it's Charlie LaDuff's, not ours. But hey, guys, welcome to an unannounced midweek Rescue Michigan live stream. Hey, Amber, Shane, how you guys doing?
Hello.
That whole clip, if you guys, you should see the whole thing. It's actually hilarious, and it's actually at enjoyer.com, which I guess is where Charlie LaDuff is posting these days. The article is called "Bums in Bedclothes: Lansing Bureaucrats Refuse to Come to Work," and then the video is here. Which actually, let me show you a little bit of this hearing he's got going here, because kind of reflects what really is going on in the Capitol right now as we speak. Here, let me find the clip here. Here we go.
So we convene a hearing of our own.
Are you telling me they want to give driver's licenses to illegal aliens? Not only that, sir, but they want to increase fees on our driver's licenses. And it's your testimony that they want to teach transgender sex education and put tampons in the boys' bathrooms? Yes, and they want to have early prison release for people that committed murder before they were 18. And free water and subsidized housing for people making a middle-class income? Yes, sir, and gas tax and toll roads and fees for people who sell tobacco. And it's your testimony that the roads are broken and the schools are stupid in Michigan. And to make matters worse, sir, Lansing's empty. We're paying $1 billion for the office space, and we want to give $1 billion to a billionaire downtown to buy empty office space. This whole thing's out of...
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is amazing what is happening in Lansing. Right, I'm sure. I haven't even looked, but I know if I go to the website to look at the Capitol Live, they're in that chamber right now. I'll bet you anything.
And they were trying to lock out people.
I think that complaining about government, workers not doing anything. I could think of worse things for them to be doing, like something.
Yeah, well, I think these people that are working from home really should just be fired, since they're just taking the taxpayers' money to do nothing. Which, let's be honest, like, nobody works efficiently from home. But yeah. I mean, present company accepted. But yeah, let's just see here. I bet you anything they're going in the House right now. Let's see. I'll put up on the screen. Oh yeah, they're there. They're voting. So I got a text from someone saying there's like 200 bills just got added to the agenda. And all of the things that people are talking about, all the things Charlie LaDuff mentioned, and many more are being put up for a vote. One of the things I mentioned that just I think is so outrageous is many of these bills were introduced after the election. They didn't even want the voters to see these things before they put them up, and now they're just ramming them through. And some of the bills, I've been catching up on all the new legislation, and I mean, it's just there's so many things you don't even know where to start. Whether it's anti-gun rights bills, whether it's well, I'll tell you what. Here's one that caught my. I mean, there's been many. I mean, there's the radical transgender stuff. There's the corporate welfare subsidy deals. There's so many. But there's a bill, and I just saw. I think it actually just moved in the House or the Senate or both. I'm going to look it up. Senate Bill 1014, which let's see here. It's now referred to the Committee of the Whole in the state Senate. It is a Central Park 5 bill, which, if you guys don't know what this post-conviction DNA testing is all about, The Central Park Five were these actually 6 people who violently raped a jogger in Central Park. It actually became the topic of the presidential debate not too long ago, just this past year, when there were 6 of them. 5 of them were convicted. The other one got away from the cops. But even when these other 5 guys were being convicted, the jurors knew. They were told there's a 6th guy out there. But these other 5 all confessed, and they weren't convicted from DNA evidence. This was in 1989. DNA evidence didn't really exist back then. They got convicted because of police work, like confessing to, the various parts of the crime, or trying to like minimize their role in the rape and almost murder of this woman. Like,
and they were all like, there was the big thing back then was there would be, a lot of inner city youths, let's call them, would be in Central Park, wilding, which means that they would just be out damaging property, assaulting random people, committing rapes, assaults, thefts, just all the time. And that's why, Central Park was known as such a violent place before Rudy Giuliani cleaned it up.
Yeah. 17's held in the rape. Notice the 17's held. So 5 were convicted. The 6th one got away. So after these 5 were convicted, like years later, the other guy, the 6th one, Matias Reyes, he's doing a life sentence in prison for all kinds of other rapes and murders and things he's done. He says, "Oh yeah, it was me, and it was only me. It was just me," because he says this to get the other guys off. Which the prosecutor, Robert Morgenthau in Manhattan, is just as bad as Alvin Bragg, decides to vacate the convictions of the other 5, just because they say the DNA evidence wasn't there to convict. Well, yeah, but they confessed to it. It was 1989. DNA evidence wasn't just laying around. They were convicted. So then Bill de Blasio, mayor of New York, gives these guys $41 million. $41 million of taxpayer money. And the Michigan Senate has a bill that I swear I saw in the tape last night. Like the last thing they did last night, it might just not be in the journal yet. They were looking to pass that bill through to give people that have been convicted of, violent, terrible crimes the ability to get themselves first unconvicted because of rape evidence that is not necessarily not necessary to be convicted in the first place, so that they can sue and they can get your taxpayer dollars for a quote unquote wrongful conviction. These guys, by the way, these 5 rapists are now suing Donald J. Trump. There was just stories in that today. In that story today, Trump just asked the judge to dismiss the Central Park 5 defamation lawsuit. So this is actually happening. So I guess the Central Park case is going to be moving forward. So yeah, let's see how that goes. Let's see how that goes for these guys when when they have a whole trial where they're gonna have to go through all of the things that these people actually said. Like when that one guy says, I didn't rape her. I just held her down while the other guys raped her. That kind of stuff. Let all that get to be brought up in open court in a suit against Donald J. Trump. So anyway.
Senator Ruth Johnson said this is the worst lame duck she's ever seen by far. And, she's been involved in the legislature going back decades. And here's what Matt Maddock wrote about what they're considering today. License for illegals, national popular vote.
Yep.
Rename prostitution to commercial sexual activity. Sodomy legalization. More human trafficking laws. Hollywood film credits. Releasing rapists. Free water for cities. Mandatory park pass. More taxpayer-funded housing. Mandatory retirement plans for all businesses. Mandatory dental coverage. Licensing midwives. $500 retail nicotine license, cuts to scholarships, more quote-unquote free housing, gun manufacturer liabilities, more mass transit funding for Oakland County, $50 million to a Canadian mining billionaire, $120 million to Broke Woke Dow Chemical, $28 million to Broke Woke Detroit Diesel, $100 million to Broke Woke U of M, keep porn in schools, anal sex training in schools, mandatory vax at high schools, and more to come.
Yeah, more to come. They're still putting in bills to this very day. It's unbelievable. I saw one. Here's a funny one for you. House Bill 6187. You know what that bill does? defines feces as renewable energy. Yes, poop. Poop is renewable energy. Another fine bill from the Democrats. I forget if that was Phil Skaggs or something. I know I just went through a bunch of these bills. Phil Skaggs has somehow put in like 4 dozen bills in the past week, which is crazy because they only get like 5 bill requests. So I don't know how in the world he's got like 4 dozen bills with his name on them, unless he's been holding them back for the past 2 years, just waiting for after the election to be over. There's also a bill, by the way, 6190 to redesign the state flag. That's just like I know it's a small deal compared to, all these other things, but just, it's just part of the Democrats' MO, just to destroy history, destroy heritage. That's just that's what they're obsessed with. But yeah, and some of
the designs they have for all these new flags are always something, bizarre or grotesque or almost deliberately ugly to demoralize.
Yeah, the new Minnesota flag, Somalia. I'm sure that's no coincidence.
Right.
And then the gun manufacturer, you mentioned the gun manufacturer. I mean, this is just so obscene too, because like this is one of the earliest kind of Democrat lawfare tactics. But when they were, I mean, it's not the first time they ever did lawfare, but one of the things they really got into a popular Democrat idea was, let's try to bankrupt gun manufacturers by suing them, saying every time someone uses a gun to commit a crime, it's the manufacturer's fault. And it's so bad that the federal government had to ban. They did to put in, protection from that legal liability, and the state governments did too. The Democrats now want to take away that immunity because they can the idea is that you can just sue gun manufacturers into oblivion. It's just disgusting. And it just goes to show they hate Michigan. They hate the voters. They don't like that the voters knocked him out. And the thing that, going back to what you were saying earlier, Shane, about how, this is the worst lame duck Ruth Johnson's ever seen. I remember in the Snyder era, the news stories that were like, Republicans are passing so many lame duck bills. And then, of course, the next story is Rick Snyder's vetoing so many lame duck bills, because that's how the Republicans govern when they're in power. But I went to see, I was going to say, is there any media coverage on this at all? Is there any media coverage of the hundreds of bills, the shocking, endless array of all the bills that they're passing in the late hours in the lame duck session? And the only thing I could find was this story from Dylan Wegela, a House Democrat. Michigan legislature must pass driver's licenses for undocumented workers, which is of course their term for illegal aliens. There's no evidence that these people are necessarily workers at all. Of course, they just call them that because they don't want to draw attention to the fact they're just illegal immigrants. Anyway, so this is what Dylan Wegela posts on Detroit Free Press. With just days left in the Democratic trifecta, we must do as much good as possible. Our lack of action so far raised the question, what's the point of having power if we don't use it? In our last days in power, it is our duty to pass these Senate bills that drive safe, and it goes on. It's all about illegal aliens. So yeah, Democrats are proud of themselves for doing this stuff. And the media isn't like screaming, this is obscene, this is outrageous, this is anti-democratic. No, they're all for it. They're for giving them even more air and saying, oh, this is great. This is great. I wish the Democrats would do even more extreme things when they're safe from the voters after Election Day.
But you almost think that, I think the Trump re-election was a referendum against all this woke crap. The fact that they're doubling down on it, I think, will only alienate them more and more from the voters. And I think that's why Mike Duggan decided to run as an independent. He doesn't want to be saddled with all this BS when he's running for governor in 2 years. Yeah, well, good. He'll screw up the Democrats' plans for governor, I hope.
So they closed the gallery. That was the big story today. So they closed the gallery because of security concerns. And Joe Tate said that they were told to close it down by security, but they couldn't say why, and it goes against open meetings. Craig Mager was tweeting about it.
Interesting. Wonder if it's got anything to do with that Charlie LaDuff footage. I don't know.
Another way to disenfranchise voices because it's so packed out there right now.
It's packed in Lansing. Well, good. There should be people there watching what's going on and being furious about it. They should not be allowed to watch.
They're being shut out of the gallery.
Unreal.
Excuse me.
So, anyway, So if you go to rescuemichigan.com, you're going to see the latest. Operation Watchdog is almost fully updated now. All of the new House bills are in. All the votes have been updated as of like a day or two ago. I'll catch up again once the next journal comes out. I've still got some more Senate bills to put in, but just the array of it's just endless. It's so unbelievable. And folks, I'm telling you, until they have adjourned for the year, I wouldn't assume that they're not going to go back into session after Christmas. You know, they're going to take all the time they need. They're going to take all the time they want. I bet you anything they will. I bet you they'll extend session as late as they possibly can, but we'll see. Anyway, in other news, there has been. I hope Trump wipes the floor with the whole federal bureaucracy. I hope they fire millions of federal bureaucrats. They can all start applying for jobs in Lansing. See how that goes for them.
But what I'm hoping is that Trump will use the powers that were usurped during the Biden administration, use those and point them back at the Democrats, and we'll start seeing investigations and indictments and charges going up against Democrats and federal employees and Democrat secretaries of state and clerks, particularly on the election fraud front, just drudging up as much as humanly possible to shame these bureaucrats and drag their names through the mud as much as humanly possible over the next 4 years. I don't think it can be reformed, but you can drag their names through the mud and permanently, hopefully, tarnish the government, the illegitimate government, in the eyes of the people, and open more eyes to what they're doing. But I don't. How the hell is Trump going to be able to tackle the problem in Washington D.C. when it's just so entrenched and so overwhelming? It's going to be incredibly difficult, but hopefully it'll at least be some fireworks to watch.
Yeah, I mean,
Doge.
the number of I just hope they destroy the federal government, and then people get ready to come to Lansing and do the same thing after we take back the legislature. The bills, I mean, there's so many like huge, horrible bills. I mentioned a bunch of them in my recent email, but then like the little ones too, like that are just they just slip through the cracks because there's just a complete all-out assault. House Bill 6275. Creating more exposure for criminal lawsuit, criminal charges against sidewalk anti-abortion advocates. Introduced literally yesterday. A bill they introduced yesterday. Probably going to plan to pass it next week. There's what else is there? There's a 6231 came out less than a week ago. Mandate schools teach African American history. 6229 increasing hunting registration and licensing fees. 6230 increasing watercraft registration fees. It just goes on forever. Like literally, they're going to try to pass every single thing they possibly can. Gas tax increases, but there's more. I mean, it just never ends. It goes on and on and on. There's a bill to mandate new houses have electric vehicle charging plugs. House Bill 6180. Oh, there's also a bill 6175 and 76 criminalize having access to a firearm in your car, even if you have a CPL. Just completely, blatantly unconstitutional bills. Every single one of it's going to have to be fought in court if they pass. That's the way the Democrats operate. It's a complete, never-ending assault. Mm-hmm. It's unreal. Anyway, in other news, one of the things that we want to talk about is I've heard that some people are claiming that it's the doing of you and me, you guys and me, Rescue Michigan, Amber and Shane, for the very narrow loss of Mike Rogers in the U.S. Senate race this past November, which, I mean, look, every other political consultant that I know loves to take credit for things they don't do. I've never said that I was responsible for Mike Rogers losing his race. And for the record, I think I could have done more to help Mike Rogers lose his race. But if people are saying that I'm the reason why Mike Rogers lost the race for U.S. Senate, all I can say is you're welcome.
And the way I see it is, it's bigger than just us, but it's we represent a swing vote of different people, Tea Party Republicans who are just sick of all the BS and won't go along with the fake Republicans anymore. Libertarian-minded voters, independent-minded voters. Those are hundreds of thousands of voters who the Republican Party, they have to earn. They have to earn their vote. They're not entitled to their vote. And if they put up a candidate as bad as Mike Rogers, they're not going to get that vote. They're not going to win. I mean, I think even a mediocre candidate could have ridden Trump's coattails and probably gotten into the Senate this year. But we didn't have a mediocre candidate. We had a spectacularly awful candidate who was anointed because the money liked him. So the big money liked Mike Rogers. However many millions and millions of dollars is poured in from Washington, D.C. to try to get Mike Rogers elected.
Never Trumpers.
Money that did not go to Kerry Lake or pro-MAGA Senate candidates. Money that went into here and was squandered and was pissed away on a candidate who was poison to a very important swing vote of independent-minded Republicans. So, people are complaining, they're whining that, Mike Rogers didn't win. I didn't trash Mike Rogers after the primary. Yeah. I even voted straight ticket and voted for all the Republicans. So, I did. I could have.
I didn't either. I played really nice. Surprisingly,
I could have been, much like you said, Adam, could have been much more brutal toward Rogers. Probably would have deserved it. But bit my tongue and still getting blamed for Mike Rogers' loss. So why not take the credit and make the point that if it happens again, if you put up someone that bad, they will lose.
Let's talk about how I personally was attacked because of the primary process.
Oh, because you worked for an opponent of his, is your right?
Right. Well, the opponent, but then afterwards they're like, well, Sandy Penciller, the ads that they ran just really hurt him.
Good.
Well, it was a primary
campaign. Yeah.
Right.
You're supposed to damage your opponent. That's how that works.
Was there anything factually incorrect in those ads? Can they point to anything that was a lie in those ads? No, they were all true. And Alyssa Slotkin, she ran ads against Mike Rogers constantly, painting him as the consummate Washington, D.C. insider, a lobbyist, a carpetbagger, and everything she said just happened to be true. So those attacks definitely resonated with the voters, and there's very few candidates that you could put up in the Senate who would make Alyssa Slotkin look like an outsider by comparison. But somehow we found that candidate, and the voters rejected it. So it was just a really stupid move. And, when we have Trump on the ticket, we should have a candidate who is more in line with Trump.
And he was forced on our throats.
As a senator.
Really
and that was not Mike Rogers. Mike Rogers was diametrically opposed to Trump as recently as last year. He was floating a presidential run against Trump before I think the big money insiders were like, hey, we can get you in, we can sneak you in if you act like you're pro-Trump for a year or whatever, and then go to Washington, D.C. and betray him.
And do your thing.
Yep. And, he never was. It's one thing if he was like, I'm sorry, I was wrong about the wars. I was wrong about illegal spying. I was wrong
January 6th. I was wrong.
Yeah.
We should. I'm going to bring up an article with some of the worst things about Mike Rogers. Before I do that, just to say, we all have our limits and, how much we'll put up with from a politician. And most people I find have an extraordinary capacity for rhinos with that, because they always bend to this lesser of two evils mentality. And the reality is, if you'll always vote Republican, no matter who the candidates are or what the issues are, then Republicans are taking you for granted. And that's why they will never actually pass your agenda, because they understand that for all the whining about it, you'll still vote for them. You'll still come crawling back to them. And there's a few people who are a little too high strung and who you can't ever please. And we know who we are. Some of them, some of us do. But I think when you take an honest look at Mike Rogers, this is a great article from Roger Stone that kind of goes over things. This is way beyond what should be anybody's acceptance level for neocons. I mean, this is someone who, first off, was totally, and as Amber said, and he was a never Trumper. He was actually at one point talking about running against Trump for president, saying Trump's time had passed. His movement was clearly destructive. He's bad-mouthing you guys, folks. That's what he was saying. And this is a great video. If you haven't seen this, we played this recently in a Rescue Michigan episode where this guy's asking January 6th protesters, and Rogers goes back and by the way, this photo is better of him than of that than the photo that Roger Stone had. This is what he really looks like. He looks like an arrogant, contemptuous person who hates the American public and can't bear to even be seen with these little people.
That was an OCRP dinner.
Yeah, there's an OCRP dinner, and here's where Rogers comes out and says, yeah, you know, I believe in the rule of law, and that means throwing the book at these guys, which is not what the rule of law actually is. The rule of law includes equal justice under the law, and that means you don't treat Republicans worse than Democrat protesters. Not to mention the gulag, the terror, the torture that these people have been subjected to, who, God willing, Trump will pardon on day one, as he promised he would. And if he doesn't, we'll be talking about that. But Rogers chose to run the kind of campaign that he did. His entire campaign in the primary, when he was running against the other Republican candidates for the Republican votes, made his entire campaign about being a big China hawk. That was his whole thing. We got to go to war with China, communist China, evil communist China. Da 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 da. Oh, no. That was all it was about. Was communist. He was a one-note candidate, and we have no reason at all not to expect he would be exactly like every other war-obsessed neocon Republican in Washington, like Lindsey Graham. Mm-hmm. And and of course, Rogers actually has personal financial ties to all these things. When he was chair of the Intelligence Committee, he was actually stonewalling the investigation into Benghazi, which Judicial Watch kind of thought was strange. Why is a Republican committee chair helping Barack Obama get out of one of his worst scandals? It turns out, because his wife was a security contractor who actually was connected to this whole operation in Libya. And this goes on. It's amazing. And, I keep going to that other view there. Let me just say this, guys. I saw some videos today of some Christians being executed in Syria. Just horrific, awful footage, but things that people should actually see, so you see where your tax dollars are going. And then you see these morons cheering that Assad is gone. I saw this article. Oh, there's a drug den. It must be an Assad drug. Like, if these idiots believe CNN propaganda, when there's like firsthand videos of these jihadis who are connected to Al Qaeda butchering Christians. That's what the military-industrial complex is, folks. It's turning your tax dollars into murders. And that's the kind of person that wants my vote in the general election. No, thank you. So,
yeah, CNN had a piece where they were going through, like, Assad has some luxury cars in a lot, allegedly, in Syria. Oh, yeah. The terrorists let them in to do a piece of like what a despot. He had some fancy cars in his lot here. How dare he? Assad is far from perfect, just like Saddam wasn't perfect and Gaddafi wasn't perfect. These are guys who I don't think any of us would want to live under their rule. But in terms of the Middle East and what they did and what they stopped in their countries, they stopped the butchering of Christians. They stopped the refugees from flooding across Europe. So in terms of the backward politics of the region, these were better than the alternative. Now Iraq is run by basically pro-Iranian government, whereas Saddam was against Iran, and supposedly Iran is the most evil country in the world. We put in a more pro-Iranian government in Iraq. Libya is just a total hellhole. All those refugees flooding across Europe, and now that Al Qaeda, or Al Qaeda rebranded HTS, whatever they're calling themselves now that they're in charge in Syria, expect a new wave of refugees to hit Europe in no time, and for a whole nother crisis to be unleashed on Western civilization, while CNN cheers, BBC cheers, they all do propaganda lionizing the head of this coup in Syria, and then they hope that the American people will go back to sleep when in a year or so, when they're pushing for war in Syria to depose these terrorists. They're hoping that we forget about how they cheered it on, how they allowed it to happen,
Right.
and how it was funded with U.S. Taxpayer dollars.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine if your senator was like Adam Kinzinger or Liz Cheney, people who despise Republicans, despise Trump. How could you live with yourself having, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I understand Alyssa Slotkin's terrible. She will be awful. We get to spend the next 6 years beating up on Alyssa Slotkin. Whereas if Rogers had made it in, it would be 6 years of Republicans telling us why we have to support him, as he's doing everything he can to cripple the Trump agenda every which way possible. Heather Dow says he sat at a table for hours with me at a GOP event, never said one word to me. Counterpoint, Marta says he met with me and his wife for dinner and chat. They were totally comfortable, natural, answered a question with no problem. Didn't show any sign of being better than us. Well, I'm glad he was that way to you. Here's the video of him answering this fine person's question at the OCRP dinner. Notice the body language here.
You are a criminal. When you break a window to get into a place you are not authorized to be in, you are a criminal. We can't have separate standards for the people who were rioting and breaking things that I thought should go to jail, and have a separate standard for somebody that broke into the Capitol and assaulted. They used mace on a police officer.
That's not true.
Those people are criminals and needed to be pursued. We shouldn't even think about that. And here's the thing we should think about. Biden's commercial. Have you seen his commercial yet?
So he changes the subject after lying repeating that hoax about the pepper sprayed cop that actually never happened. That's what he tells us. That's what he's telling this Republican activist at this dinner is, let me tell you something, moron. These people are criminals. You see, I think criminals should go to jail. So I don't know why you support criminals, you stupid voter. That's the way he talked to that person. So, yep.
Yeah, and he was also saying that we need to drop all the January 6th talk. Let these people suffer, because that'll help us in November.
That's not a way to win elections.
Whereas Trump didn't back down on anything really. He never. They tried to twist his arm to say that there was no fraud in 2020. He would never do it. He would never take the bait. He never, threw the J6ers under the bus. So all the different things that Mike Rogers and the consulting class of the GOP said was the winning formula. Trump did the opposite, and he won. Look at all the Muslims that came out and voted for him, or at the very least gave Kamala the finger and wouldn't vote for her. Look at all the Latinos that Trump brought on board with a strong message of keeping the border secure. So it's the exact opposite of the conventional wisdom that the Republican Party elites would have wanted us to take. But don't expect them to learn the lesson. They're just going to go back to doing the same garbage that they've always done, and trying to impede Trump's agenda every step of the way, because they would rather lose. They would rather be the Washington Generals, as long as it keeps the gravy boat coming in for the special interests in the military industrial complex who owns them.
I think they learned a little bit from losing. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Amber.
Rogers said at the Genesee County dinner, and it wasn't recorded, but he goes, "We have the two worst presidents in history battling each other at the top of the ticket." And that's before running for Senate, but he was doing this circuit. And that's what he said. And that's what he believed. He believed President Trump is one of the worst presidents.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all, because he said other things in that same vein. So, yeah, there should be, and there has to be, a penalty for bad behavior. I think I've said this before. I'll say it again, since it's the topic we're at right now. There's at least 4 reasons why you don't vote for the lesser of 2 evils. And the biggest reason is because it's not even a true premise. They are just as bad, if not worse. I mean, when Barack Obama was president, he was terrible, but he gave us something to fight against. Whereas when George W. Bush was president and doubling the size of government and getting us into endless wars and torturing people, all I heard from the Republicans was how great he was. And that paved the way for Barack Obama.
Right.
So I understand that
Exactly.
sometimes, depending on the race, you got to draw the line someplace. But for me, look, and if anyone's like, listen, it's a U.S. Senate race, we can't lose it. The world's on our shoulders, guys. We ended up taking back the U.S. Senate by 4 seats this year. Could have lost any one of them. We still have majority. We lost this one and we still have majority. So you know whose problem it is? The National Republican Senatorial Committees, the idiots who put Mike Rogers in our face in the first place, the ones that recruited him, funded him with their stupid.
Told us there was no other option.
Yeah.
Did a Trump endorsement in March when our
Yeah.
primary is until August. It just totally tied our hands. And I think that working in politics, now I technically don't, right? I took a step back from campaigns. I'm not working for those CRP. I finally have my own voice, I kind of feel like. So this is kind of exciting. But you're kind of told to shut up. Like, don't talk about it when you're in the system. You're not going to get other jobs. You have to kind of play the game. And I kind of did. And I feel dirty a little bit afterwards.
Yeah. One of the reasons why, one of the others of those 4 reasons is that it's demoralizing to be told what you have to settle for all the time. And that's why people don't want to get involved in the GOP, because you're like, okay, you support Trump. Great. I love it. You got to support Mike Rogers too. Oh, you're going to support Matt Hall in the House. We'll see how that goes. We'll see what kind of champions we have in the Republican Party next year.
But no, getting along to get along is why we lost in the first place. That's why we lost our state, is because we're not standing up and fighting for the people. We're standing up and fighting for our party or the special interests that get involved and told, don't rock the boat because Republicans are in office. But no, the people don't care what party it is. They care that they're hurting or not.
Yep. Carl Kirsch says, I guess Trump was very wrong. Yes. He endorsed Rogers and Rogers almost won. Correct. So you're saying a very weak candidate could have easily ridden Trump's coattails to an easy win. Probably. Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Sandy Pensler has, first of all, millions of dollars he would have put into his own campaign. Didn't have any of the baggage that Mike Rogers had. Then he would have made it much more. He would have made a much better candidate. Would have actually been loyal to Trump too. Not much is easy in such a divided state. Well, that's true, but that's why you want to recruit a fantastic candidate, not settle for
any divided. That's the thing. We don't have to be divided.
Yeah. So now we live with Slotkin for probably a couple decades. Why? Why can't we take it back in 6 years? And are we better off? I think we're in the exact same situation we were. We have a Republican majority in the Senate anyway. We don't have Mike Rogers. We have Lisa Slotkin doing the exact same thing. There's a choice, guys. The FBI or the CIA.
They're this person.
If Rogers was so bad that he needed to be primaried out in the next election. Well, I like that too. And I agree in primarying, but it's really hard to primary them. Have you noticed? Especially when they're in high offices like U.S. Senate. How many U.S. senators have lost in a primary challenge? Not many.
No.
Even Lisa Murkowski managed to survive her primary challenge by rigging the rules to her advantage. But that's the kind of power that they have. It's very, very hard to. Then he says you spent about 20 minutes wondering about the ... Well, sorry, buddy. Your comment got cropped, but that's your punishment for writing a whole essay there. You gotta keep your comments short, guys, and to the point. Heather Dow says we need to recycle we tend to recycle the same people. We need to be recruiting new talent. Absolutely. Yeah. I wish we need to have a better minor league, guys.
And Adam's really good at that. He talked about knocking doors and finding good candidates that way.
Yeah. I mean, look the big one we had this year. Tom Barrett. Fantastic. Yes. Brilliant guy. Extremely sharp, very conservative, charismatic, and now he's a congressman. Like, why don't we have more guys like Tom Barrett? We should.
And we are recycling bad people. Like, we had Paul Young run again in that district. He should never run again for office.
He's a perennial now. Was his 3rd run, I believe.
That was his 3rd run. And we keep, for name recognition's sake, he wins the primary and we screw ourselves over. It was another bad candidate. Tom Leonard should have ran for that seat. He would have been great.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's try Terry Lynn Land again. She did so well the last time she ran for U.S. Senate. I mean, seriously, folks, that's what they're probably tking right now.
Right.
I mean, that's the
Enough
that's the
time has
mentality.
gone by. Let's throw
Yeah.
whatever at the wall.
Yeah. You know, it'd be good as like a prominent Trump supporter might be good. Can't imagine if there's any of those in the state of Michigan that might be qualified for these roles. Maybe. I'm pretty sure they're out there. Kelly says, worked hard for Tom Barrett. So happy he went. I'm happy for you, Kelly.
Yes, Kelly worked really hard on that. She's great.
Yeah. Maybe he'll get a job in his congressional office or something. That'd be awesome. And I have no doubt he will serve with distinction in Congress, and he'll be someone like Tom Massey that you're proud of, not someone you're ashamed of, and that makes all the difference.
Yeah, I would expect Barrett to be, have a strong voting record in line with a lot of the members of the House Freedom Caucus, and those are the sort of people that we should be electing. We have a lot of mediocre congressmen across the state of Michigan. I think Tom Barrett's going to stand ahead of them, and hopefully that'll be the beginning of us. A lot of these people, especially on the west side of the state, they're getting older. You'd think that they're not going to be around for too much longer running for Congress. When they're gone, we need to replace them with people, preferably people who have a record. Like Barrett was in the state Senate. He was a solid conservative there. We need to find those people who have the proven record to stand strong and be conservative, and get more and more of those people into Congress, and get the weak milquetoast people out of Congress as Republicans.
Yeah. It occurs to me, Carl's probably, and was trying to say here, spent 20 minutes whining about the Democrats in Lansing. And so now what are you doing talking about why we should hold our people accountable? Well, look, that's the thing. If your choices are between Democrats and rhinos, there's no point to any of these things, any of the stuff that we do, guys. Like, I'm here because I want to change policy. That's the only reason any of us really should be here, is to change public policy. And if you don't ever get your way because your choices are between a party that's openly hostile to your values and a party that only puts people up who will mouth the words when they want your vote and then do nothing for it, then you don't get anywhere at all, ever. I mean, look what just happened in Britain. The Conservative Party just lost. They got crushed in the election because they went all in on Ukraine. Now they got a liberal government that went, what? All in on Ukraine. Now they're extremely unpopular. And just like you got the puppet on the left and the puppet on the right, people eventually just drop out. That is the demoralizing effect. So you have to be involved in both sides, the primaries and the generals. And when the establishment tries to throw garbage at you, you say, no, I will not put up with it. I have to draw the line, run someone better, find someone better. These other guys are non-starters. And if enough people have that mentality, they will eventually stop running dead fish and start running serious conservatives. But until that time comes, they're going to keep on doing this.
Instead of pointing out that these people are aligning with Trump and Trump supporters, we should just point out that they're aligning with America. So Mike Rogers was the military-industrial complex that will start wars because they profit from them. We need people that will just focus on America and not focus on Ukraine. And I think Britain had the same mentality. So these aren't just Trump align. Trump aligns with the America first. He is America first. We just have to bring that back and not make it about a person anymore. It's about America, period.
Yeah, and
Mike Rogers was not for America.
And where'd the Trump movement come from? It came from so many people who were just fed up with the two-party establishment system. And that was the big thing that animated the whole 2016 campaign. When every time Trump knocked out rhino after rhino after rhino, and finally the Democrat, Hillary Clinton, at the end of it, it was like, this is America's big FU to all of these party bosses and political operatives. And no, we're going to have someone that wants to break the rules and upend the system. And we need more people like that.
Right. People
we can believe in. I hope Trump is inspiring this time. I from the bottom of my heart, I've seen good things too. There was the story that he's been his real emissary to Ukraine and Russia is not General Kellogg. It's Viktor Orban from Hungary. And if that's the case, then I think we're going to see a very positive negotiation and resolution to the conflict, like pretty much as soon as Trump takes office. So that was very encouraging.
And there was some news that came out about an hour ago. It said that President-elect Trump has told the Lockheed Martin CEO that he will cancel the $1 trillion F-35 contract because, quote, China is winning the fighter race while Lockheed sends executives to DEI camps.
Nice. Good.
So that's good news. A good initial sign that Trump is not going to take shit from these, monolithic corporations that have, are not, keeping America safe. They're just getting contracts for these, jets that, really don't do anything to help America stand up to China or do much of anything other than soak in, kind of be a piggy bank for more profit and higher stock ticker for corporations like Lockheed. So hopefully those days are coming to an end, and hopefully his Pentagon Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, is going to get nominated and going to get approved by the Senate, because it seems like he's very much on board with putting America first and not doing the bidding of the defense contractors.
Yep. Hey, real quick, I got some comments on Rumble. George Hiller says, what are the chances of any of those lame duck bills making it through the Senate as well? They're good. they have the 1 seat majority, which is all Democrats ever need. It's amazing. I have heard there is some resistance because the Democrats could only afford to lose 1 vote. And so here and there are some people who are like, this is a bad thing. I mean, I promise whatever they vote for in lame duck, we will be campaigning on 2 years from now. No question about it. If Regina Miller passes, this $10 million to put tampons in boys' bathroom stuff, we're gonna be talking about it 2 years from now. No question.
And they should realize, because they lost the House, that to go so extreme, they will lose the Senate. I mean, they should already be expecting that.
Their attitude is, we're in power. The election just happened. It won't be for another 2 years, so we have another election, so we can get it all done right now. But all it takes is one of them to be thinking more tactically and like, hey, you know what? The going against the will of the voters, which is clearly what they are doing,
right,
is going to be bad for them in the long run. But I mean, in the meantime, right now, folks, all you can do is, especially if you have Democrat lawmakers, keep badgering them, call their offices. It really does make an impact. I know I know people don't think that it does. It really does, because they do think about the next election, and when they feel the heat from the public, it does have an impact on them to think that this might not be good for us in the long run.
The national popular vote, the day that we said it was going to be on, it got postponed to now. Yeah. But at least they got an influx of calls.
Well, what they'll do is they'll keep it on the agenda. It might not have passed yet. We might ride it through to the end of the year. We might. Not everything might pass. In fact, until they have, it's all still in play, folks. So
they could do a midnight session.
Yeah.
Stranger things have happened.
There's been plenty of those. Even when the Republicans were in power, they were sometimes there till 3 a.m. I wouldn't be surprised. But they'll get to that septage bill if they can. Septage. That's their term for poop as a renewable resource. Septage. Not clean nuclear energy that might actually give affordable energy for the whole world, mind you. No, we don't want any of that. We want to burn poop on fire. There's actually right across from my house. They're converting a farm into a solar plant. It's so nasty.
Ew.
I look forward to seeing, these solar panels leaching their coal both into the earth right next to my house.
I was gonna say, isn't there something like health wise that could do to be that close proximity to that?
I don't know.
Very.
Larry says, I can't be glad that Mike Rogers lost. Slotkin is a stinking LGBT groomer person to put boys and girls bathrooms, locker rooms, showers, and boys and girls sports. He's a horrible human being. I don't disagree with any of that, Larry. So I'll never be happy if Slotkin is our senator and we'll be stuck with that greasy witch until she retires. You guys are so pessimistic that we can't knock her out in 6 years. Why? Why would you be more optimistic for the open seat than going after Gary Peters? Anyway, but this is also what consultants get people to do all the time. This is the most important election of our lives. We can't possibly lose, or we'll never win ever again.
Well, I did feel that this last time.
Yeah.
Trump.
Mike Rogers isn't an LGBTQ pervert. I don't know that. And anyone's better than Slotkin, who votes left of AOC. No, she doesn't. Slotkin does not vote left of AOC.
Hey, Larry,
She
by
actually
the way.
votes more moderate than most Democrats do. Even if she didn't, my points still stand. And okay, Larry says because it's always hard to defeat an incumbent. No, not necessarily. Especially in the U.S. Senate races, because they often do go with the partisan vote. I mean, there's lots of times U.S. Senate seats flip. We flipped 4 this year. And those were in many cases incumbents. Sherrod Brown lost in Ohio. I remember when Claire McCaskill lost in Missouri to, who was it? Not Tom Cotton, somebody else. Josh Hawley, I think. Yeah, Josh Hawley. Larry says Slotkin isn't moderate at all. I understand Democrats by and large are no moderates, period. But when you say she's to the left of AOC, no, she's your average run-of-the-mill Democrat, basically, which is still terrible. Don't get me wrong, but if you never put your foot down on anti-Trump rhinos, then you're going to get nothing but anti-Trump rhinos. Kelly says Ohio has gone deep, very deep red, and that's the other thing too. It wasn't
always that way.
Yeah, there's this certain weird fatalism in politics that's like, oh, Oakland County is going blue. I guess it's going to go blue forever and ever now. That's not the way it works. Political winds change all the time. And
but as Republicans, we're constantly that dread. They just don't want to work. You give up on cities and then counties and then states, and then you don't work hard to get them. I mean, this election you saw some states, but it's like Michigan. People are just so lazy.
Yeah.
And that's how I came up in politics, was because I realized nobody else is going to do it. So I felt like I had to do a lot.
Yeah. Our motto in Washtenaw County, our plan for the next 2 years, our goal is 5-point shift. I want to get 5 points more Republican than we were the last time around. And
you had a great candidate in Brian Ignosti, and Kelly did a great job on that race too. He was great.
Yeah, Brian's going to run again too. He said a lot of people that were too busy with their own races are going to really go behind him and help him out in the next cycle. That's awesome. He might win in 2 years. And again, it's not like because he lost this time, he can't win in 2 years from now. No,
his name's there.
Yep. Yeah, Marta says we are weary. I hear you, Marta. Believe me, I've been in politics for 16 years. I've seen a lot of people come and go because it's exhausting, frustrating work. I know it is, but that's just the way it is.
But
we get
forward.
Yeah,
and with I think the hope is that the Democrats are going to overreach. Look at how they're overreaching right now. There's already been a backlash against that overreach. It will, Slotkin will not be easy to get out, but we can shift. If the shift happened in Ohio where they went from purple to deep red, why can't we do it here? I mean, there's
same thing in Florida.
Really the answer to that question is why can't we do it here? Because of the entrenched rhinos who completely sabotage us and make us appear milquetoast and poison our names in the minds of the voters. That's the biggest obstacle to overcome. But I think Trump, his victory is the big first step toward all of us being able to overcome that, because now his legacy is essentially written in stone. They can't nullify his first term. The public has said, we want more of this, even after they threw everything but the kitchen sink at him, tried to destroy him, the assassination attempts, the lawfare, the ridiculous prosecutions. All of it failed. All of it backfired. All of it sent more people in the middle over to the Republican side. So we have to keep that momentum going. And who's to say that we can't take back the governorship and take back the Senate, both Senate seats in the near future? We just have to put up better candidates. It can't be another Mike Rogers. It can't be another retread. It can't be another guy who was anointed by the big money. And we got to hope that Trump will do better in terms of endorsements. Trump has endorsed a lot of good people throughout, the past 8 years, but he's also endorsed, Mitt Romney for Senate, Mitch McConnell for Senate, Ronna Romney McDaniel for RNC chair. So there's been some really bad ones too. And I would put Mike Rogers at the top of that list of bad ones.
And if you'll recall, we did a campaign to ask Trump to reconsider his endorsement of Mike Rogers, which I heard his people were furious about when we did that. But I'll tell you what, I'll bet you that's part of the reason why Mike Rogers has no role in the administration today. So once again, folks, you're welcome. By the way, Larry Parsons says, please tell Shane I said hello.
Hi, Larry.
But also at the same time, you're not only forcing Mike Rogers down our throats, you're also alienating us as activists because you're blaming us. And we work so hard, and here we are getting blamed.
Yeah. Larry says we had Michael Hoover, who was a great candidate, but no one donated him. Well, that's another part of it too, though, is you have to be right in the issues. You also have to be able to run for the seat you're running for.
Right.
And look, it would be great if the big
money.
big money got behind someone like Mike Hoover, like, oh, this guy checks a lot of boxes. He's intelligent. He has, a good understanding of the issues. There's no real baggage there. Let's get behind this guy and give him the boatload of money, so that he can be competitive. That would be good. I would applaud the big money if they were actually to do something like that. But instead, it's let's get people that we can control in there. Let's throw money at them. Let's deprive money from people we don't like in other seats. So it's all a very slanted game that the Rhinos play nationally and in Lansing, and that's why so many Republicans are pissed. And that's why many Republicans won't hold their nose and support the anointed candidate anymore. They've been burnt so many different times that they're not going to accept the excuses anymore, and that may only be a small percentage of the vote, but that a few 100,000 votes is going to be in Michigan being such a toss-up state. That's going to be the vote that needs to be won for Republicans to win these statewide races. So find candidates who they don't have to be 100% Ron Paul, Thomas Massey types by any stretch of the imagination, but they have to have some sort of strong conservative bona fides that the people in the middle will be like, I trust this person. I know that they'll do the right thing. Not someone that will do the wrong thing every time, like Mike Rogers will.
Yeah. Right. The other thing too is with respect to this point is it's very common for people to run for higher offices than they should, and we need to have. This is why we need to have more of a minor league, guys. We need more people running for state rep, not thinking that I can't run for less than Congress, which is what I've heard a lot of people say.
Right. The name recognition's huge. At that point, you have your own donation base because you did run for state rep. You have a record to kind of run on.
Yep.
Yeah. If Hoover came in and ran for state rep, put up 30, 40 grand of his own money to do that in a seat that was a 50-50 seat, he'd have probably won. And then he could maybe build up to running for something bigger later. So a lot of good candidates.
People, you meet donors.
They put the cart before the horse. Another guy who I voted for in the primary, Ryan Kelly, another guy who would probably have been a better state rep candidate or state Senate candidate than immediately taking the jump in to run for governor. So there has to be more strategic thinking in people who want to get involved for the first time. Build yourself up. Don't just go for the biggest, shiniest position, because it's very, very unlikely that you're going to win that position with no money and no name recognition as someone who has no experience in government. So build your recognition, build yourself up, show that you have the courage to stand in the system and fight back against corruption at the lower levels, and then run for Senate later, run for Congress later. And that's, like what Adam said about the farm system. That's what the left does so well, is that they'll run a guy for, county commission or city council or township board. And then they'll be like, oh, wow, this guy's really doing what we want them to do. This is someone that we can elevate to the next position. And they've done that so well. And, like what happened with the Democrats and their tactics in terms of mail-in ballots and absentee ballots. We resisted that for so long to our peril. This election cycle, the Trump Force 47, Turning Point Action, Chase the Vote, put a huge emphasis on getting as many absentee ballots and getting as many people to vote early as possible. And that paid off, and that made it harder for them to cheat us on election day. So by copying the more intelligent tactics of the left and what they do, we don't have to adopt their ideology, but if we look at what they do well and we emulate it, we can bridge that gap, and so we won't constantly be losing elections that we should win and putting up poor candidates who blow easily winnable elections.
Yeah. It's me again. Cyan Rumble says, I think Michiganders feel beat down. I mean, you gotta keep things in
shouldn't.
perspective, folks. I mean, first off, we had overall a good election. Trump won the state. We picked up a congressional seat. Democrats lost the House. This is all progress. Yeah, the Democrats are going to pass some nasty crap this week, and it's painful. I get it. It's what we talked about when we started the show. But at the end of the day, we're still here, guys, and all these things are going to be used against Democrats in 2 years
to win more elections.
Yeah.
But it's like we forget about it in 2 years when we have to actually win elections, what they actually did now, and we chase our tail around the subject and we don't win elections.
Yeah. I mean,
not you so much, Adam, because you have a brain like an elephant.
Well,
but like in Oakland County, I feel like we didn't do a great job with messaging about how radical the Dems are.
Yeah. Well, we're post-election now. We get to take a Christmas break. Again, I'm sure I'll get a jump start when I get my Musk bucks finally. Speaking of that, by the way, I should talk about that. My Musk bucks.
I got my $43 check or whatever it was. So
47. You got your $47 check.
I'm $47 richer as a result of signing that petition. So
I got $47 too, but I don't know why.
You must have said someone referred you or something. I don't know. He just gave you a check for $47 for nothing.
Right, because I thought it was the people that got me to sign it would get the $47, but
right,
I got $47.
No, only in Pennsylvania did they give the signers 47. Actually, they gave them $100 each, but that was only Pennsylvania. You must have referred somebody, or someone put you down. Heather says y'all getting paid. Apparently, I'm going to be the last to get paid. So, realizing that $47 per signature was kind of a lot of money, I went on a journey in the last week or so before the election and got an extra 1,000 signatures. So Elon owes me a good chunk of change. So there was this update to the petition. I'll show you. Let me share this tab here. There's a new FAQ page on their frequently asked questions, and we haven't gotten paid yet. What's going on with that?
Frequently asked questions. Where's my money?
Yeah, and it says, well, if you're owed more than $600, you need to send in your W-9 form, which I actually have already emailed it to them because they said, oh, no, please don't email it to us. Because rather, there will be a process for you to upload your IRS W-9 directly into an online system. 5 days ago, it said on or about December 6th, this form will exist. The form still does not exist. They have actually said we have until, this is sketchy, we have from Friday of last week until Friday of next week to cure any possible mismatched names and addresses. I'm going to have to sue Elon Musk. I can already feel it coming, guys.
I'm not going to have to sue Elon. Stop.
I hope not, because they're going to come out and say, oh, this name was misspelled by a character. Therefore that's
don't put that out there. You're good.
I just hope not. But anyway, yeah, they actually so they've changed this page a lot in the last 48 hours. I will just say that at one point they had a comment on here.
No, maybe you will.
Saying that, yeah, look at this. Here, look at this line here. So they used to say everybody will be paid by November 30th. Now it says consistent with the November payment goal we set for ourselves. Big bald-faced lie right there. No, they said you will be paid. That wasn't a goal you set for yourselves. That was a promise you made to the people you owe these checks to. So they have already the overwhelming majority of checks to the eligible refers. They're just waiting on these, these big tickets are coming. So I just want to put this out there for tonight, just to kind of get this on the record before the webpage changes again, because there definitely is some track covering going on here. But we shall see. We shall see.
Right
I want my moustache, Elon.
Right now, Elon is in negotiations with many of America's greatest loan sharks to front him some quick cash to get out to his PAC people.
So someone on the chat once had said that they actually got like 7 separate $47 checks from Elon. I'm just wondering if I'm going to get $1,247 checks, because that'll be a fun trip to the bank. Hey, I've got like $1,247 checks to deposit. So I'm going to have to borrow a staffer for the rest of the day here. I think you have some stamping to do. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Or your hand's going to get cramped doing your sign-in.
Yeah, no kidding. So, dude, that reminds me, I gotta get Christmas cards out.
Oh yeah,
All
you
right.
probably do.
Yeah, it's going to be late. Sorry, folks. I know for you guys that didn't get my Christmas card, you're very upset, but it's not going to come until like the day before or something. So sorry. Yeah, I'm always bad with Christmas cards. Anyway, I think that's a stream, guys. We've been going for more than an hour already. Is there anything you guys got coming up you want to promote? The house
Shane.
is still the house is at ease until 7:30 p.m. So it's going to be a long night. You can go to house.mi.gov if you want to watch the live feed and see what kind of garbage they'll be passing. But we'll get Operation Watchdog updated soon.
Yeah, just final plug. Check out gnppac.com. We're doing the precinct action caucus right now, putting up new different training modules up there. We put up one on what state nullification is and how you can use the principles of Thomas Jefferson and James Madison in order to fight back against tyranny, local and federally. So we put that up there. We're putting up how to door knock, putting up a lot of different tools that you can easily use to make yourself into a better activist. Hooking up delegates with mentors who can take them door knocking if it seems like such a daunting task as it usually does when you sign up and get involved and take the plunge. Unless you're overly gregarious and love talking to people. If you're one of those people, God bless you. But many of us aren't. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible to create a network between delegates across the country who are supportive and positive and not always tearing each other down as we tend to do. So trying to fight back against that culture of toxicity within the grassroots and encourage people to use the best practices when reaching out to people and developing their local organizations. So check us out, sign up on gnppac.com, and I will probably see a lot of you at one of these conventions coming up. It's going to be a lot of interesting races, especially for chair. See how all that turns out. So a lot of intrigue coming up. So stay active, stay engaged, stay informed, and we're going to keep giving hell to the rhinos in Lansing. We know they're going to try to take credit for Trump's victory. We're not going to let them do that. We're going to hold their feet to the fire and do everything we can to drag them more to the conservative right where they belong.
And the thing I love about the Precinct Action Caucus is it doesn't leave. That's what I keep telling people. Like it's a stable platform, and State Party comes in and tells you to use something and then like leaves. This is very consistent, and Shane's done a really great job with it. So thank you, Shane. And then once you sign up for that, go to Rescue and get your precinct information.
Oh yeah, we'll do a whole thing about that once we get the November voter data coming back to us. Carl Kirsch says, I would advise you three not to take it so personal. Why do we take anything? We didn't take anything personal. We have an opinion.
No, I don't take anything
with our opinions. We were close to flipping our Senate. We were close to flipping our Senate seat. Well, like I said, next time we get a better candidate.
And honestly, I was shocked it was so close. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah. Slotkin was
the
way
the power of Trump.
It really does. It was shocking because he was down a lot more internally. So Trump really, his message resonates, and we need to get back to American principles. No more funding overseas wars for the war complex.
And I think that it's really the people who are taking it the most personal are the ones who are mad that Rogers lost, blaming people who pointed out the many different horrible things that Rogers did, insinuating that if we'd have just shut up, then Rogers would have probably won. But we're going to keep telling the truth about Republicans or Democrats and their terrible records. Biting your lip and going with the flow and supporting bad candidates and bad Republicans is what has gotten us into this mess, and is what resulted in our country really falling to tyranny to the extent that it has. So the answer isn't to just do the same thing that got us here. It's to speak out, make our voices heard, and demand better candidates in not just statewide elections, but every election in the state, rebuild the credibility of the Republican Party around America First principles. Trump has kind of given us a do-over in the eyes of the public, but the way we blow that do-over is by supporting turds like Mike Rogers. So let's not do that again.
No.
Yeah, and speaking of Debbie Stabenow, look who she ran against. 2 years ago when was it? It was John James last time, who was already kind of building up a record for himself as a bit of a rhino. And then before that, 2012, that was when the Republican nominee for president at the top of the ticket was Mitt Romney, and our nominee for U.S. Senate was none other than Pete Hoekstra, who, if I recall, was getting a lot of challenges from the right in that election, from guys like Gary Glenn and like Clark Durant. Would the party say, "Oh no, let's elect this much more experienced moderate guy," and let's see how that went for him. So,
good luck. Hey, good luck in Canada, Pete.
Any candidate can be beaten with a better candidate. You just got to find the better candidates, guys.
Pete Hoekstra, good luck with Governor Trudeau in Canada.
Governor Trudeau.
Hey, Russ Jennings, Precinct Delegate Caucus introduction, Jackson GOP Thursday with Shane Trejo. Is that?
Oh yeah, there you go.
That's
Plug.
right. Yes. Thank you for the reminder.
Thanks,
plug.
Russ.
I will be in Jackson under the Oaks, 6 p.m. tomorrow. Really rolling out, everything that we're doing with the Precinct Action Caucus. So kind of going through the program that we are initiating for delegates throughout the state. So if you're in Jackson, check out the Jackson Republican Party and come see me speak tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Cool.
I'll do 2 plugs. So we're running a coat drive until Wednesday. So if you're in the Commerce Township area and know my office building off of Cooley Lake Road, that's where we're collecting jackets. You can follow me on social media to have the flyers. That would be really great. We're collecting coats for Team Wellness, who helps people with mental needs and those that are in need of coats. So I'm really excited about that. And then if you're just going to go to AmFest, by any chance, I'm running an event in AmFest for a national organization called Republicans for National Renewal. So it'll be fun.
All right.
And if you could pull that up in the private chat, that's just the graphic that'll show where I'll be speaking tomorrow in Jackson.
Oh yeah, sure. Also, by the way, on Rumble, Mia Gensai says website again. I think she means gnppac.com. Also
gnppac.com.
Also says I'm done holding my nose and voting for rhinos. Good for you. And she says I hate
And
James.
one vote at a time.
There you go.
It will be taking place at the Commonwealth Commerce Center, located at 209 East Washington, Suite 320 in Jackson, and $12 a ticket. Food and drink is provided. Hope to see you there in Jackson tomorrow.
Right on. Dwayne Zantop says last night Chuck Kermy presided over his first board meeting as supervisor in Plymouth Township since he was elected. Did not scowl at people or tell them to shut up like Kurt Heisey. He treated people with dignity and respect. Congratulations to Chuck. That's such a great win. Larry
That's
says,
awesome.
Amber, I didn't recognize that was you. You're a little further from your camera tonight, Amber, but you had your name tag is right there. So
Hi, Larry. I said hi, Larry, earlier too. I was like, you just said hi to Shane.
And Russ Jennings says jxngop.org. That's the Jackson GOP website. I will just say for Washtenaw, we've got some big plans coming up, and I look forward to announcing them soon, but not just yet. So stay tuned, guys. We got something big coming. All right, that will do it for us for tonight. My throat is killing me. Thank you, Shane and Amber, for joining us tonight for this. I'm sure we'll have more bad news to talk about on Sunday's stream. Until then, thanks as always for all you guys do for Liberty. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and peace.